the stern of the boat. We've left Hawaii a day ago. We're in the middle of the Pacific on the way to Marshall Islands. After leaving Honolulu, Hawaii on January 27th, we set sail aboard the MS Amsterdam across the Pacific to the small atoll of Majuro, which is part of the Marshall Island chain. We arrive February 2nd, spend the day, and then proceed westward to the U.S. territory of Guam, arriving 5 days later on February 7th. The next day we again set sail for 6 days, this time northward to Osaka, Japan, arriving there on February 13th. Majuro and the Marshall Islands attained independence in 1986 from U.S. administration of the territory. We saw much poverty, and a street cleaner waved us away from exploring more of the neighborhoods near the village center. He said we didn't need to see the ghetto, where people made $2 a day. I think this mother, seen in the background of this picture, told her children to look cute for the tourists, I fell for it and gave each child $1. The latest theory is that Amelia and her navigator Fred Noonan were on their way on an around-the-world flight when on July 2nd they missed their refueling stop at Howland Island, instead crash landing as they ran out of fuel just off the beach of a Atoll island. The Japanese captured them and brought them to nearby Jalowit Atoll, and then transported them to a Saipan prison cell. Fred was beheaded and Amelia died years later of dysentery and other illnesses, or so the controversial theory goes. Check this site out on the web. We are headed towards Guam. Guam is a hot topic now because of North Korean threats. This movie will be uploaded in mid-August 2017. Let us hope and pray that Kim Jong-un finds sanity and leaves this place in peace. I will make a movie about our visit to South Korea after this movie.
This is Guam. You might have heard of it because it's part of the US, but only kinda. Guam doesn't work governmentally like any other part of the US. It's a complete exception. You see, Guam is here, 7,936 miles away from the capital of the US. That begs the question then, why is Guam part of the US? Here's a 60-second history lesson. In 2000 BC, a bunch of people came over from Southeast Asia and settled Guam. 3,521 years later, this guy named Magellan, you probably haven't heard of him, landed in Guam, and the native Chamorros, who were accustomed to the idea of subsistence living, canoed out to his ship and helped themselves to anything and everything that wasn't bolted down. Magellan soon sailed away, minus a bunch of guns, whiskey, and food, and dubbed the spot the Island of Thieves, before he died 5 weeks later, of course. Fast forward to 1565, a guy named Miguel López de Legazpi landed on Guam, and in true imperial fashion decided that it was now Spain's land. In the next 300 years, Spain brought Christianity, corn, and spread enough diseases to cut the population from 12,000 to 5,000 people. In February 1898, the USS Maine blew up in the port of Havana, and despite not having any proof, the US press blamed Spain, and thus began the Spanish-American War. The two countries fought and fought and fought in both the Caribbean and the Pacific. On June 21st, 1898, a bunch of American soldiers landed on Guam, which, as a reminder, was still Spain's, and nobody really fought against them, so they decided it was theirs. This was formalized 6 months later when Spain and the US signed the Treaty of Paris, and that's how Guam became American. So what's the point of Guam? Less people live on Guam than have seen this YouTube video on how to make a PB&J sandwich. The GDP of Guam is lower than the net worth of Gordon Moore, a billionaire so insignificant that you probably haven't even heard of him. And the federal government sends $600 million a year to the small Pacific island. Why does the US put so much effort into keeping territory on the other side of the world? For the military. You see, some call Guam America's unsinkable aircraft carrier because it's so close to hotspots like North Korea and the South China Sea. Guam is only 2,114 miles from Pyongyang, North Korea, compared to 4,766 miles to Hawaii. That's a huge difference considering conflicts could erupt at any minute in North Korea. The United States military is the #1 employer on Guam other than the Guamanian government and encompasses 27% of the island's landmass. The other major industry on Guam is tourism. United Airlines is the single biggest private employer on the island. Since United is an American airline and Guam is part of the US, they fly to 18 direct destinations from Guam International Airport, only 3 of which are in the US. 75% of the 1 million yearly tourists visiting Guam come from Japan, and a big attraction is the relative ease in visiting what is the US. Major income comes from the American-style malls littering the island. Guam's postal service is still the US Postal Service, and it still costs only 47 cents to send a letter to Guam from the contiguous United States, compared to $1.15 to Canada. Phone calls to Guam are domestic, the United States dollar is the currency. Guam really is part of the US, at least in theory. You see, that's pretty much where the similarities with the rest of the US end. Guamanian people cannot vote for the president. They can't even vote for a congressional representative to vote on the laws that will apply to themselves. For that reason, Guam is on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories, which basically equates Guam to a colony of the US, a big no-no in the 21st century. Much like American Samoa, the Northern Marianas Islands, the US Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia, Guam has a non-voting representative in Congress. These delegates are given all the privileges of other congressional representatives. They can serve on committees, speak on the House floor, and can even send mail without a stamp. Another strange way that Guam is only kinda part of the US is that when flying direct from the US to Guam, you still have to go through customs and you can still buy duty-free. However, if you fly direct from Guam to the Northern Marianas Islands, another US territory, you don't have to pass through customs or border control. Also weirdly, citizens of Hong Kong, Malaysia, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Russia, and China are allowed to visit Guam for up to 45 days with no visa, even though one would be required to visit the mainland US. So that's Guam, the Pacific part of the US, for the most part.
Since I have borrowed their video, I owe it to Wendover Productions to give credit for their expertise. Here is their description from their website. Wendover Productions is all about explaining how our world works. From travel to economics to geography to marketing and more, every video will leave you with a little better understanding of our world. New videos go out every other Tuesday on YouTube. One of the pilot ships guiding us into the harbor at Guam. Which is a U.S. territory. It's a huge beast of a ship. Got the side thrusters going, slowing us down and moving us to the starboard side. Getting ready to dock in Guam. These are big hoists for containers from the container ships. There's the man getting ready to help. Guam is strategically located. Two battles occurred here. December 8th through 10th, 1941, almost simultaneously as the Pearl Harbor's invasion, the Japanese took control from the U.S., killing 52 of our defenders and 7 of their aggressors. The second Guam battle occurred from July 21st to August 10th in 1944. The U.S. used 55,000 military personnel to attack and take back the island. Web statistics on casualties vary, but basically around 1,700 Americans died and over 6,000 were wounded. Over 18,000 Japanese also lost their lives. And the native Chamorros? During the nearly 3 years of occupation by the Japanese, 1,170 Chamorros were killed, with another 14,721 suffering from atrocities of war, like beatings, forced labor, torture, rape, murder, beheadings, massacres, forced marches, and concentration camps. Isn't war just dandy?
I like to go off the beaten path when I travel. At home, it's no different. From its empty beaches to its dense jungles, Guam feels like another world. It's a photographer's dream. From its history to its modern culture, this island refuses to be just one thing. There are strains of the familiar, but I can't shake the sensation that I am far away from everything I know. This is the crossroads of an ancient culture and a modern colony. There's a passion to rediscover what was lost. Their stories inspire me. Humbled to be invited into this world. There's a joy, there's a warmth in this island and its people. How do you stay true to your heritage while evolving as a people? Sometimes cultures clash. It can get messy. But there's a resilience, a spirit that can't be extinguished. Really know what it's like to be from here. But The mystery of it all keeps me intrigued. This is my home. This is Guam.